On the mark on this Monday, May 25th, and one of our favorite guests of all time, Gail Vaz-Oxlade is here. He is little you, the author of Money Rules, because money rules, but there are also money rules if you want.
See how that works?
Yes, I do.
Play on words.
And we're talking about teens and money.
Yes.
What's the biggest mistake teenagers make?
Not learning about it. And it's not the mistake teenagers make, it's the mistake their parents make. Because parents have to accept responsibility for teaching their kids about money. It is not the school system's freaking job. Okay? Stop trying to offload stuff onto the school system. It is your job. You should teach your children about sex. You should teach your children about civic responsibility. And you should teach your children about money. Because if you don't teach them, then you can't go, oh, my poor children are so stupid.
What's the starting point for parents to work with their kids to get a positive psychology with money at a young age?
Starting really early and giving them some money to manage and talking about it whenever you go out and do stuff. You know, my daughter tells a story. I took her shopping one day. She had her own money. We were walking by. She looked in a window. She said, oh, I need that. I plucked the wallet out of her hand and I said, we're going home. Because clearly you didn't learn the lesson about needs and wants.
Needs and wants.
And she said she never forgot it. It was just like I just did a 180 and we were out of the mall and we had to drive a long time to get there because I live in the bush. Okay?
I have a question when it comes to actually getting the parents to acknowledge that they need to teach the kids, because there is this, the millennial thing, the entitlement thing. You know, you see 17-year-olds walking around with iPhone 6s wearing $300 shoes. They've never worked in their lives.
I am so tired of people trying to blame the kids for this.
Right.
Because the reality is that, you know, we didn't have cell phones when we were growing up, so we couldn't walk around with cell phones, or our parents would have bought them for us too. We had CD players. Okay, we had all the stuff that was available to us then. And so it's not about the stuff. The stuff doesn't spoil kids. It's not having any expectations of your children. Not having a sense that if you earn $1, you save 10 cents, like your dad did for you.
Yeah, we're bringing in that conversation because we are talking RSPs in the commercial break. Much to my chagrin, my stepdad at 15, my first job at Dairy Queen, said, you're starting an RRSP.
Absolutely.
Is 15, is it first job? Is that the time?
What it is the establishment of the habit. If you don't establish the savings habit, why would your kids be savers? And it's not enough to say, well, I don't save anything. I mean, how am I going to teach my kids this? Okay, so you're expecting your kids to end up as stupid as you are then. And then don't stop your whining.
Okay, so let's go practical advice on this scale. The idea of getting your kids involved with the process. Bank accounts at a young age. You know, you get a job early. What are we saying? How many bank accounts? Checking, savings? When do you give them a debit card?
Okay, so you don't want to start your kids with a bank account until they're about 10, because that's the first time they can understand what it is. If you open up a bank account when they're 6 or 5 or 4, you're doing it for yourself, you're not doing it for your kids.
Okay.
Okay, so savings account, everything, you can start with jars. You know me and the jars, right? So you start with the jars, you give your kids an allowance, 10% goes into savings. If you do sharing in your household, charity giving, you put that amount in your sharing can. Everything else goes between mad money, which, you know, you want to buy gum, you want to buy a pop, or planned spending, which a lot of adults out there could do well to learn the planned spending rules. You're not saving money if you're accumulating it to spend it.
Right.
So if you're putting aside money for a vacation, that is not savings, that is planned spending.
That is a great lesson right there.
Absolutely.
You know what makes my 7-year-old son very wealthy is the swear jar.
Yes.
We have the swear jar and the manners jar.
Okay, so I want to tell you that when my daughter introduced the swear jar, she was only about 5 years old, and I handed her a $20 bill and said, let me know when it's all used up. She couldn't do the math yet. I never saw anything more. I am still swearing on that $20.
I'm going to use that $20. We have another viewer question, right?
Yeah, this strikes chords with a lot of family, and let's tackle the first one that talks about debt. Arlene sent us this one. Say if you owe, hypothetically, $20,000, what is a realistic amount to pay, and how long should you factor in to pay it off?
Okay, so you should always aim to have your consumer debt paid off within 3 years. Because after 3 years, a thing called debt fatigue sets in, where you figure you've been in debt for so long, you'll never be out of debt. Okay, so you want to aim to have it paid off within 3 years. So then what you do is you take the amount you owe and you multiply it by interest rate. That's what you have to pay divide by 12. That's what you have to pay every month in interest. That's just to stay even. Then you take your principal and divide it by however many months you want to have the debt paid off. So if you owe $20,000 and you want to have it gone in 10 months, that's $2,000 a month. If you want to have it gone in 20 months, it's $1,000 a month. It's that simple. It's grade 5 math. So when people out there goes, but I just don't have a head for the numbers, I go, really? Because we're talking grade 5 math. Ask your kid to do it for you then.
What about the people who take their, and I know this happens a lot with late teens and 20-somethings,
Yes.
most often because there's this idea that if you just put it all aside, it doesn't really happen. The interest won't be there. You just take that envelope and you just put it over there. And you just put it. How do you get them to pull out those envelopes, put it down in front of them, and figure out what the math is?
Well, you know, this is part of the responsibility parents have teaching kids about money, because it's not just, we're going to have a discussion today about saving. It's we're going to the supermarket. Here are all the things we do at the supermarket. Here's how we price match. Here's how we check unit costs. Here's how we do the budget. So we take X number of dollars and make sure we stay on the budget. So when we get to the cashier, we don't have $120 worth of groceries on a $100 bill in our wallet, okay? Mm-hmm. So it's that discussion. It's the turn off the lights. It's just not turn off the lights. It's here's my hydro bill. Okay, so what would happen if we unplugged all our devices for X number of days? Let's see how our hydro bill changes. You start playing those games with your kids and you say to them, okay, for every buck you save me on hydro, I'm going to give you an extra 10 cents towards your allowance.
It's really teaching kids consequences.
That's exactly what it is, but it's like that's the life lesson. And then you have to let the consequences actually teach the lesson, because if kids do things that lead to negative consequences, and you as a parent rush in to save them, and this is very pertinent for kids going off to college and university, okay? You rush in to save them because, oh, we can't have Brandon not having any food. Well, if Brandon doesn't have any food for a few days, maybe next time he won't spend his grocery money on beer.
Let them fail and learn those lessons.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great advice. Another quick question from Yasmin, who says, when should young adults start buying RRSPs?
Okay,
planning?
so it's anytime you earn money, you should be saving money. Any dollar you earn, you should be setting aside some money from that. If you start in your 20s, you can save as little as 6% of your income over your life, because you have so much more time for the money to compound. If you wait until you're in your 30s, the 10% rule kicks in. If you wait until you're in your 40s, it's 18%. The thing about RSPs is just because you make a contribution does not mean you have to take the deduction. You can hold that deduction for as long as you want. So even if you are in your 20s and you are making, let's say, $25,000 a year, you stuff a little money in an RSP, don't claim the deduction if you think you have a long-term horizon of getting to above $40,000. Because if you do, when you get to 40, you'll get a better tax refund.
Earning potential. Invest in your
Absolutely.
future and writing that money off. You're a genius. You really are.
It's common sense.
Author of Money Rules, and you, parents, can go see Gail Vaz-Oxlade at the K Meek Center. It's tomorrow, correct?
Yes, tomorrow night at 7.
Tomorrow night at 7. That's in North Vancouver. You have to purchase
West
tickets.
Vancouver.
Oh, sorry, West Vancouver.
I kept
Thank
saying
you.
North. That's why everybody said
Right.
so. Yeah.
So
Nice
purchase
one.
your tickets. Gail Vaz-Oxlade, you go to her website, which is her name. Follow her on Twitter. I'm telling you what, genius. Thank you for the
Thank you.
Thanks, Gail.
input.